Um, and I will start by saying hello, everybody. Welcome. My name's Anthony Epes. I've been a professional photographer for about 20 years now. I was born in Athens, Greece, but I'm from California. And I graduated from Brooks Institute of Photography in '94 with a double major in, what was it? Commercial photography and color theory. So I went to school because I wanted to be Ansel Adams. I mean, who didn't, right? And I discovered color photography. So I switched from zone system to color because it smelled better and it was easier. And I thought color added a whole new dimension to my photographs because I was doing strictly black and white. And then whoop, I did a flip about my second year in school and fell in love with color. Um, I found some techniques in this color theory class, and what you're looking at here is some very early kind of color experimental stuff I did with film and alternate processing. This is a film acceleration, they called it. I was taking color film, I was making my own bleaches, figuring out ratios, and trying to get something really different, right? I wasn't out trying to get reality as you know it. I was trying to reinterpret everything I saw into something original. And I think that's what we all kind of strive for as artists, right? And you're going to hear me say artist quite a bit as opposed to photographer, right? I think when you say photographer, you get kind of caught in genres, but an artist has more latitude to make mistakes, to experiment, to imagine, to dream, right? To reinterpret. And I like that idea. And I've been doing that since I picked up the camera when I was 12 years old. I'm always trying to I'm trying to create something I haven't seen before every time I pick up the camera. Yeah, even for myself, I'm always trying to strive and do something that is pushing territory in my mind that I haven't quite touched yet. And I started out with trees and landscapes and nature, and that was all really wonderful. And I still do it, but then I started to get kind of lonely in nature and stuff. And I thought, well, if I really want to grow, what happened is I started to stagnate as an artist. I started to feel like there was more to it, but I didn't know what it was. And then I realized I haven't taken a picture of a person in a long time. And so to break out of that comfort zone of being alone, of being with nature and being embraced by it, I decided to do something experimental. And I started a portrait project, which was a portrait project without the head. And I wanted to see how much I could capture about someone's personality through their belly. I know it's a really weird idea, but man, as talk about personal growth, I had a 17 millimeter lens and I was going up to people with a little bookmark and had all like thumbnails of my belly pictures. And I would ask them if I could take pictures of their bellies. Now, a lot of people said no, and I got rejection after rejection, but everybody, yes or no, everybody laughed. Everybody thought, this guy's crazy. I mean, are you serious? You want to take a picture of my belly? Yes. And that, for me, was a project I did for like 4 years. I'll slow down now, my coffee. That was a project I did for like 4 years, and it really allowed me to understand the portrait in a new way. And I took that experience to some commercial work where these photos here are from a job I did in Mexico and Poland for the Homeless World Cup, shooting the homeless athletes at this event. And that was fantastic for me. I really loved meeting these people. And you can see this was all shot on film with my Hasselblad. So it was kind of like a very editorial style got 5 minutes with a person, and that's it. And so my new love in photography was no longer landscapes and those lonely, beautiful places, but it was people. I really loved photographing people. And I did commercial photography in London for 10, 15 years, and I got bored to death. I got bored to death. I didn't like an art director giving me a comp and saying, fill this space with a photograph. Okay, I filled the space, got the check, went home, didn't think about that photograph again. And I realized after, a decade of doing this that, man, I'm bored to death with that type of photography. So I was being a photographer. I wasn't being an artist. And so I decided to hit the road and publish some books. And I published London at Dawn. I published Paris at Dawn. And then I published London at Dawn, and then I got commissioned to do an East London at Dawn because I was like the London morning photographer, and it was really good. Then I spent a lot of time traveling, and I started doing workshops. My income went way down when I stopped commercial photography, so I tried to bring it back up by doing workshops, and I realized, wow, this is fantastic. I got to travel, I got to see the world, and I got to help people with their creativity, with their understanding of what they can actually accomplish with their cameras, given enough, given not time, but giving enough encouragement to pull the blinders off themselves and say, and tell people that, photography is it's not about the kit. It's not about competition. It's about you as an individual human being and how you see the world, and coming up with a spin on that nobody else has, right? And when you find that niche for yourself where you can't be emulated, because it's impossible to emulate you because you are unique, and we are all unique and special. You just got to get a hold of you got to understand where that spot is and nurture it. I tell people to watch children play, and look how they play. Look at the joy, look at the bliss they have. How many times have you given a kid a beautiful present in a cardboard box, and then the box becomes entertainment for an hour, right? Pure imagination. And I think as we get older, we're told to be responsible. We're told to grow up, be men and women, take life seriously. And we do. We get jobs. And what happens is that childlike curiosity starts to atrophy. And with it, our creativity. And I didn't allow that to happen to me. I'm always childlike. I'm more that than the other, because it feels good. It feels good. It feels like I'm fulfilling a life of need to be creative, right? And I find what happens with a lot of my clients is they're good photographers, right? They take fantastic photos, but they come to me with a problem. They're saying, I keep taking the same photos over and over again. How do I move forward? And that's my gift to my students, is like I get people over that hump of plateauing, right? If you're concerned about what lenses and what cameras you have, or what genres you should be shooting in, I help people overcome that. I'm like Dr. Photographer. Yeah, I help people get out of that rut of being mundane, when they not that others are going to feel that your work is mundane, but you in your heart know you're capable of more. That's what I like helping people with, and that's why I get such good reviews from my students. And at the end of this, stick around. I've got some deals and some stuff I want to propose to you of what coming up in 2021. right? And you can see from my work here, I'm not genre specific. I shoot the world. I reinterpret the world in a way that I think is unique to me. And I believe that everybody is capable of doing that level of creativity. These last shots here are quarantine photographs from in a fish tank when I had nothing else to do except take pictures and look out the window. Now, what I had was a fish tank, and I had some slime, and I had some food coloring, and I had a little girl who was saying, "Let's do it." She's like, "Take the picture now." And it was fun. It was bliss. And man, yeah, creativity. The beautiful thing about it is, like, the more you use it, the more you get. Okay, and that's my whole spiel. Is like finding creativity every day and nurturing that more than anything else, right? Creativity and imagination are the most important things as a photographer or as an artist, right? So today I'm going to talk about abstract photography. Now, I'm not going to read this out because this is from Wikipedia, and it'll be better if you just read this while I talk over you reading it. I wrote this article about abstract photography a few months ago, and it was published. And as I was putting the article together, I was collecting images, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get all my abstract stuff together, and for this article." And I did 1 hour, and I had 350 images, and I was like, "Whoa!" I didn't realize I did so much abstract stuff, but that wasn't really how was I defining abstract, right? This is the Wikipedia's definition of abstract. Now, mine varies a little bit, right? Mine can have a little bit more narrative sometimes than what is stated here, right? But the gist of abstract photography is, in general, abstraction occurs when a photographer captures a portion of a specific scene, isolating it from its contextual environment, right? By focusing in on something, whether it be color, shape, form, or texture, the artist is able to create a unique perception of familiar objects. This method of expressing ideas deviates from photography's traditional realism and is intended to capture the viewer's imagination, right? If you want to capture the viewer's imagination, you have to be using yours. Otherwise, it's not going to happen, right? Your imagination is critical in this type of photography because what you're doing is you're reimagining reality, right? You have to reimagine reality. If it looks like it's supposed to look, then you haven't done your job properly, right? So of all the arts, this is a Kandinsky quote that I love. He says, "Of all the arts, abstract painting is the most difficult. It demands that you know how to draw well, that you have a heightened sensitivity for composition and for colors, and that you be a true poet." And this last is essential. Now, I think there's so much in this quote, right? Abstract photography is difficult if you've never done it before, because what it's asking you to do is to go free form, to be silly, to be experimental, and to try things you probably would never normally try, to see things in a new way that you probably not used to seeing if you have never dabbled in this type of perspective, this type of photography, right? When you're taking something out of context, it's to remove it from its narrative value and say, this is not this is something else, right? Whatever those blanks you want to fill in, that's for you to decide, right? When you shoot, and then hopefully your viewer is going to make their own assessment of that. So those are wise words from a master painter. So are you ready to be poetic with your camera? Abstract photography gives you the opportunity to explore your most creative, imaginative side. Yeah. Other genres, portraits, landscapes, street photography. If if you told someone you were going to go out and do street photography or landscapes, they're already going to have a preconceived idea of what a landscape looks like, of what a portrait looks like, right? They can be creative, they can be imaginative, right? Of course they can. There's some of my favorite photographs are in those genres, right? But the thing about abstract is you're going into an experimental mind state. Yeah. You've got to really open up yourself to opportunities of newness, right? Looking at things in a new light, not for what they are, but for what they can be. Trying to find value in the unknown, trying to put elements together that normally don't coexist, right? Finding angles of light that reveal new forms from new perspectives. Being fearless is another way to approach it, right? You can't. I want to say something before we go on about more abstract thing. No matter what class I'm teaching, no matter what I'm saying about photography, no matter what the subject, fear always comes up. Excuse me. Fear is something that lives in all of us. And it's stepping through that fear, right? It's becoming uncomfortable but with what you're doing, right? When we get really comfortable with our photography, that is mediocrity, right? We start to get comfortable, or we have been comfortable for a long time, and we're happy with what we're doing, right? We're safe. But what happens in that comfort zone is you start to stagnate, right? But once you push out of it and you say, okay, I'm going to do something new. I'm going to do something that's going to give me growth as a human being. I'm going to expand myself, right? Mentally, and try new things. And what happens when you leave your comfort zone, all of a sudden, you push through that fear, you're in a new zone, and that's the learning zone, right? And you're learning something new. And beyond that is the growth zone, right? And one of the cool things about getting out of your comfort zone is, like, you can expand your comfort zone, but very rarely will it contract again, right? You've become a new person. You've experimented, you've learned, and you've grown, right? And I recommend this to everybody, is like, always push yourself through that fear. I mean, I can't tell you how many students I have that say, oh, I don't like to shoot people. I don't like photographing strangers. Well, yeah, I mean, not a lot of people have that natural gift. I think I've met maybe 3 photographers in my life who excel or who never had a problem with photographing strangers. Everybody else has some type of apprehension, right? That's the easiest example, photographing people, right? If you push through that, you're not telling yourself I have to photograph people for the rest of my life, but that is an easy win. That is an easy win. Pushing through that fear, photographing some people, for example, and then you've learned something about yourself, and you might have some great photographs to show for it. Okay. Divergent. That's why I was throw that in there somewhere. Okay. With abstract photos, your intentions of telling a story differ from your usual cadre of photographs, in that your intentions are focused purely on design, color, shape, and form. now what your subject, no, not what your subject is or what it is about. Okay. So we're taking our subject out of context, right? And we are focusing purely on its form or its shape or its color, right? In a design sense. And I think that's why this is so fun, right? That means it could be anything. And that's very exciting for me. And if you guys have any I'm going to be taking questions at the end. So type them up in the chat if you have any, okay? So what this takes is a mental shift. It's putting your mind in a place of experimentation and confidence. Experimentation due to the nature of the photographs you create, right? Because we are pushing boundaries. We are stripping it of narrative, mostly, and confidence because you will rely solely on your skills of observation and composition, right? We're not trying to build a story. You hear a lot that all great photographs have some kind of narrative, right? If you look at any of the iconic photographs that we all know, yeah, we had a book of iconic photographs. It could be this thick. Each photograph is going to have a narrative, right? And the majority of viewers in the world will look at that photograph and know what it is. And they'll know that because the photographer was hugely successful at transferring what he wanted, his intentions, into that photograph. We're not doing that with abstract, right? We're going dreamy land, right? We're experimenting. We're trying to change things up, right? And if you do this in true to your heart, right? If you find a place that and you're using your imagination to its fullest, right? You're nurturing it and you're getting it going, then you're going to come up with some unique images that are going to be very stylized, right? Because no one can emulate you, right? One of my favorite sayings is like, we are our photographs and our photographs are us. And that's a quote of mine. We are what we shoot. And I realized this after doing some workshops in London for 5 or 6 years. You know, I had gone to this place 100 times before I even brought anybody. And I thought I shot it to death. And then I bring a student, you know, group of people, and they say, hey, they take photographs in that same place I've been 100 times. And they show me their camera and they show me a shot. I'm just like, oh my God, that's a brilliant shot. And I go, how come I didn't see that? You know, and this kept happening every time I go out, And, you know, I just thought, it made me think that we are all so unique, and every choice, you know, it's our life experience that leads us to that moment where we click the shutter that makes that photograph unique to us, right? All the decisions we've made, all the choices we've done in our life led us to that moment where we click the shutter and we have a raw personal experience, and we create a photograph via that, right? Our camera is our tool for that experience. And that's why it can't be emulated, because nobody else could see that photograph but you, right? When you're present and you're in observation mode, you know, nobody can do that photograph but you. One of the things I say when first day of my workshops, I say to everybody, you know, we're in Istanbul, we're all going to be walking the same path. We're all going to be seeing the same monuments. But at the end of the day, I want you to bring me photographs that no one else saw. And inevitably, everybody does that. And those are the photographs that they take home and they're proud of, right? Because it means something to them. So, am I talking about abstract photography? Okay, so how do you approach abstract photography for the first time? If you're a beginner at this, what are some things that you can do that are going to help you get started. And here's some ideas. All right, so the techniques I would recommend to you are simplicity, composition, movement, light and color, put those together, distance, your positioning, and processing. All right. One of my favorite parts of the techniques is processing, because I can put the sliders to 100 on an abstract photograph and everybody goes, ooh, and it doesn't look bad. Yeah, it doesn't look bad. You can't do that with photographs that have narrative value and be successful every time. Okay. So simplicity. Everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. Apparently, Albert Einstein said that. And I love that quote, right? Simplicity has the effect of provoking ideas of purity or beauty or clarity, right? It's very pleasing to the eye. Simplicity is creating order out of chaos. We live in a convoluted, complex world, right? And you can take your camera and go click, 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 and not think about it. And what do you get? You get photos that are extremely complex, you know, overlapping, foreshortening, too many shapes colliding, everything jogging for position within the frame. It's all very bad news for good composition. So when we can break it down, a photograph, into a primary subject, or a subject and one or two supporting elements, right? We've accomplished simplicity. And when your viewer looks at that photograph and they go, oh, you know, they see it. There is not a place. There's not a, your intentions are clear, right? With simplicity, there's not the opportunity for the viewer of this photograph to say, well, maybe it means this. And then the person next to them, no, I think it means this. No, simplicity relieves your viewer of that responsibility of having to interpret the photograph, right? It just is what it is. There's no other interpretation of the photograph when you do simplicity properly. Now here is a very kind of simple photograph, but it's texturally quite complex, and you know, it's one subject, foreground, background, very simple, but on a textural kind of thing, it gets a little bit complex. Don't know why I'm going that way. This was there was a in Vietnam, there was a machine, and it was carving the cliff, and it was, you could see all the carving marks in the wall there. And I was walking by, trying not to get, you know, run over by this thing, and it hit this, it had hit this stone, and I thought it was a mountain within the mountain, and instantly I thought that, like, oh wow, that looks like a mountain, and it's like a brown sky, and it looks like a raining kind of dirt. And I took a couple of shots, and then I already knew what it was going to look like in post. And that was kind of like my intention, was to make it look like a mountain. Yeah, and it's just a broken rock. So composition. I take it you all know something about composition. I won't go into the rules or the toolbox of composition. I don't really like calling them rules. But composition is important in abstract photography, because we want our viewer to go on a journey, right? We want lines to be useful in a way that bring things together, that control the eye through a photograph, right? I don't want to, I won't get into rule of thirds. So what composition, the tools, what they bring to your photographs are, you're controlling the energy, and you're bringing in either a harmony or a discordant kind of feeling with your composition, depending on what your intentions are, right? So it's important to use composition that that when the composition needs to sync with your intentions, right? If you want energy in your photograph, you have to know how to compose for energy, right? Because we are working with a two-dimensional medium that doesn't have a lot of energy, right? It's a flat substrate that doesn't really move unless you tell it to move. And when you tell it to move, you got to know where the energy is sending the eye, right? You've got to control those things. I don't want to get into specifics about the toolbox that we use for composition, because that's a whole nother tangent I could get started on. All right, we've all taken pictures of walls. I think every photographer has taken pictures of wall, and broken bits, because what it is like, it's usually shape and color, right? And as photographers, we're highly attuned to that, right? People who don't take pictures a lot, or are not interested in photography, pass by a wall like this and they don't observe it. Yeah, it doesn't register with them. And you think, wow, that's kind of weird, right? But you're a photographer. That's why you think that's kind of weird. You see this kind of stuff because you're in tune to your environment. Usually when you have your camera, hopefully when you have your camera, you're always being present. You're not thinking about your emails and your kids and what you're going to have for dinner, right? You're not thinking about the past or the future. You're just there in that moment, and you're tuned on. You're tuned into it, right? Nothing else matters except that present time. So let's talk about the second one, which is movement. Now, movement can be your subject or it can be your feet, right? It could be you, it could be shutter speed, or it could be your subject, right? Movement is movement, and how you want that movement to be interpreted can happen several ways. In this shot here, it was tripod. It was 30-second exposure of a ship coming into port, right? Boop. I visualized that, and I made it happen, right? It was a ship coming in. It was like, God, that ship is moving really slow, and so I said, well, what would it look like if it was going across the shot, right? Through the frame. Yeah, I had some coffee left in my thermos, so I sat there for 20 minutes while it moved into the port. And my subject created the shot for me. Here is me with the camera just shaking patterns, on bulb. I had some Christmas lights. I think this was Christmas lights, right? And it almost has that feeling like there's an Ernst Haas shot of some birds taking off, and he's got a really slow shutter speed when he was using that 50 speed kind of what was it, Kodachrome, the low ISO stuff he was doing back in the 70s. And this reminds me of that, and it feels like the Ernst Haas shot of the birds in flight. And it's abstract. Christmas lights taking out of context, okay? You're going to find some of these shots in this image, in this presentation, don't seem so abstract. And, I'm all right with that. Like, this is a building, this is a tree, and this is sky, right? Have I taken it completely out of context? A little bit. Not 100%. Do I care? Not really. Not really. There's levels of it. I was in my my membership club, the Light Monkeys. I have a membership community called the Light Monkeys, and we did environmental portraits. Was one of the classes I just did, and we spent the first hour of the first session. I did my presentation, and then we debated about what quantifies as an environmental portrait, and we still haven't really come to an agreement, right? So abstract photography, if you want to broaden out and say this is abstract, don't let anybody tell you differently, right? You're the artist. You can do what you want, but just understand that when you're contextualizing something, that you do want it out of context as much as possible. The more out of context it is, the more abstract it is. This is my fish tank again, and this is the slime. This is going down into the water, right? I inverted it, I lightroomed it to death, and all the little debris, after my daughter was throwing in all kinds of stuff, and I was like, "Stop! You're ruining the solution." And that they look like little birds flying in the sky. I have no idea what this looks like. I mean, what my intention was here. My intention was to get something groovy, and I think I did. Probably over Lightroomed it, but what fun! What fun! So movement. Oh, I was talking about movement, right? So so this is something moving through the frame, even though the shutter speed doesn't convey the sense of motion. The actual subject itself feels like it's flowing, which it is, right? It's a liquid environment, and it feels like it's flowing. There's movement there. I think my little fake birds also give a kind of feeling of movement. And here is some bubbles, right? Rapidly moving bubbles. If you've never done this before, guys, I got to tell you, this is so much fun. When you get into Lightroom, you could just go nuts, and it's so much fun. So much fun. And here again, right? 20-minute exposure. I think it's 20 minutes, 10 minutes of my front yard. When I got to Spain, that's all I did is I took my camera out every morning, went to the same spot, same lens, same proportions, and took 50 shots of just the only variable was the weather. Again, subjects in motion, right? Not very abstract, but a demonstration of motion. All right, light and color. Every photographer's favorite thing. If it's not, it should be. Well, light anyway should be your favorite thing. You should be obsessed with light. I won't get going about that, but right, light is our reason for existence, right? We are chasers of light. I know that sounds corny, but we are chasers of light. We are light monkeys. Light is the most amazing thing to me because light makes our world comprehensible, period. Without it, there's nothing, right? And the idea that different types of light reflect differently, and we perceive it differently is amazing to me. It's amazing to me. And that none of us see the exact same color perfectly, right? We all have this unique kind of vision of our reality. And you could use that to your advantage. This is what happens when you break a glass and you start getting on a macro kick in quarantine. You start getting kind of really abstract and working with colors and natural light and some weird stuff. The impact of colors, the way colors work together in teams, right? In pairs, in triplets, in triadic formations, analogous templates, right? All the variability of color is something you need to really kind of get your mind around and know the effect, the emotional response that colors elicit from your viewers, right? And not only that, but in a two-dimensional medium, how colors, how they relate to each other in that space. How are warm colors going to relate to blue colors, right? It's really important. The tints and shades of colors. I got a course about this that I had so much fun making because I got to go through all my favorite color photographs and talk about how I've been using color throughout my photographic career. This is a funny image. It never looks good when I take it out of Lightroom. It's really weird. In Lightroom, this thing is just like a poo. It's like a saturated rainbow, but in Zoom, it just doesn't look good. Sorry. Maybe Carlos can tell me how to get that in the pro photo. All right, so distance. This is another good step here. Distance is either your focal length or your physical position, right? And how your film plane to your subject, that distance, right, is really, really quite important with abstracts, because when we're dealing with distance, if you don't experiment with distance, right, if you're always standing, if you're always using your favorite lens, that 85 millimeter, and you're always, not what I've noticed, that a lot of photographers that I've been out with tend to keep their focal distance the same, right? They got that Steve McCurry kind of curse. Steve McCurry, bless him, great photographer, right? But he could weld his focus ring at 3 feet and never knew it was welded, right? Every photograph he's taken that I've seen has been within a 5-foot radius of himself, right? That's what he does. That's what he's known for, right? It's never more than 20 feet out, right? So his distance is very consistent. I can't imagine him going beyond that and somebody recognizing his work. It would just be un-McCurry-like. So what I'm saying to you is, like, if you're one of those photographers, or you haven't played around with your focus distance, try it, because it will really help you with your abstracts, right? Even if you're okay, I'll get on to the next one. The thing, I'm not saying you have to do macro or wide angle, but if you find an object you like, a subject you like, right, and the idea of experimentation comes up because you're doing abstracts, then play with your positioning, play with your focusing distance, because what that does is, like, say you're standing on a patch of grass, and you look down at your feet, and you see your feet, and you see the blades of grass, and then you squat down, and then you see the patch of grass, and then you put your eye to the grass, and then you see the big blades. I mean, if you could actually focus that close, you see the big blades, and then you see the ants and the stones, and then you go a little closer, and then you see the cracks in the ground, right? And then you see the roots, right? Distance changes reality when it comes to abstract photography, right? Not necessarily macro, but I want you to put distance right up there with color and light. Even when you're doing wide angles, right? The distance matters. You can isolate something, make it very simple, and achieve a cool shot in a very simple way with distance, an abstract way. I love shooting things at my feet. I've been doing it ever since I was 14, and I saw Ernst Haas' book, Colors, when he'd had, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Ernst Haas. He did street signs or road signs and arrows in New York City. And when I saw that when I was 14, 16 years old, I thought, wow, anything could be a photograph. And that was my first and only influence in photography. Once I saw that, it was just, I was set loose. I was doing landscapes before that. And I was doing, what was I doing? I was just doing landscapes. I wanted to be Ansel Adams. But Ernst Haas showed me that anything could be photographed. He's got it was a particular photograph that he had, it was called Christ Shirt. And it was a dirty shirt in the road that looked like the Christ for some reason. And that blew my mind. Whew. I was like, wow, anything could be in a photograph. A part of using your imagination is trying new things all the time. Angles and distance should be one of these changes, right? If you're going to go into the realms of abstract photography, you need to take this to heart, right? You've got to change your distances, and you've got to find new angles on things. The act of simply changing your shooting distance creates opportunities that may not occur to you if you're always shooting standing or twisting at the hips. If this is how you shoot, then consider doing some squatting and getting on your knees and elbows for some fresh perspective and some exercise, right? It's good stuff. It's good stuff. I put this photograph in here particularly because it was a London morning workshop, and as usual, London really disappointed me. It was like the hammered sky of lead, just gray, and everybody had lost their motivation. It was like pissing down, kind of drizzly, wet, and we're at the most beautiful scenic spot in London, and boom, totally fell flat. So what I had to do is I had to reinvigorate students. I was like, hey, you know what? Hey guys, there's reflections everywhere. There's photographs all around us. And I saw this puddle, saw the street light above me. And you know how you can close one eye and kind of make that light move as you change your perspective. And then I saw in the puddle, there was a little leaf. And I put my 100mm macro in there and cranked it to closest focusing, put it on manual focusing, cranked it all the way to closest focusing. And I went down on my hands and knees, and I think I squatted because it was a puddle. It was a really big puddle. It was a huge, massive puddle. And I got that little leaf, and I put the light above me, right? I got it at the incident angle, and I put it out of focus. And I was amazed to find that that leaf had turned into a tree on a mountain with the sunrise. And that's what I was thinking when I took the shot. I was like, oh, it looks like a sunrise, over some kind of maybe video game or some kind of book cover or something like that. It's got a kind of surreal type thing happening in an abstract way. I took a subject, right, and I made it abstract, and I came up with something a bit surreal. But it's that kind of imagination that's required when you want to do this type of photography. That's fun to do. You got to have fun, guys. You can try making distance changes by switching lenses, but that is no substitute for moving your body to a physical location. It is more precise and gets better results, right? Your physical position is going to change perspective of things, right? And you're going to get more opportunities with that one lens if you practice. We practice on that focus ring, right? One of the techniques I love to do is put it on manual focus, crank it all the way to the closest focusing distance, and just move into the position and see what I get. And so for processing, now, abstract photography is open to imagination and interpretation, right? It gives us a great opportunity to experiment with our processing without making images seem overprocessed, right? All the images I'm going to show you now look nothing like straight out of camera. Very dull, kind of just straight, bell curve type stuff, and with processing, kind of changing things up. You can push it really far. I know this doesn't look like it's pushed really far, but my goodness, it really is. Now, this looks like it's pushed far, but it almost gives it an illustrative feel, right? When I did my my fish tank slime things during quarantine, I had more fun in processing than I had in ages because I was experimenting. I would bring one image up and I'd play with it, and I'd have like 20 snapshots for one image. And then I'd take a snapshot, then I'd make it a preset, and then I'd apply it to other images and see what would happen. And then I'd tweak it, then make another preset and give it another stupid name because I'm terrible at naming conventions, and came up with all kinds of weird, really weird, fun things to do. And some of the results were good. Were really quite fun. This is another image that completely doesn't look straight at a camera, right? I've got a almost a light gray tarmac and some very washed out yellow. So what did I do? Man, clarity 100, saturation up to 80, right? And going down in the calibration module, which I highly recommend you experiment with, and tweaking the colors there, right? But does it look really, really super overdone? Like when I say super overdone, just imagine HDR back in 2003, right? Oof. That was completely overdone. You know what I'm talking about? That really overdone, over-processed look. We could get away with that in abstract photography. Don't be afraid to push the boundaries, okay? This may not look super processed, but I probably have 5 or 6 masks on this, right? The smoke was not that dark, wasn't that textured, and yeah, really over processed. Quite clean, but highly processed. I'm not gonna say over processed. Again, one thing I've been doing recently is the first thing I do when I get an image in the develop module is I go to the tone curve, and if I've got an image that's not spread across the histogram, but it's clipped at the highlights, I will drag the highlight slider, and I'll compress the image, right? So from 0 to 255, I'll go from 30 to 230, you know, and just compress that image and make more contrast, and you start using that as a base for my S-curve or however I want to process it. I've been getting some really, really nice results with that. Hey, that looks familiar. I knew there was going to be at least one image I put in here twice. Yeah, so this looks really, really, really quite pushed. I would think you would all agree. But does it look horrible? Not really. I mean, it's abstract. I don't know how abstract, but it looks all right, right? I think we could go either way. Tomorrow, I might feel differently. Okay, so that was my presentation. My name is Anthony Epes. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and LinkedIn, and it's all Anthony Epes. I'm there everywhere, right? And I want to thank you for sticking around. I want to say my new travel schedule, God willing, 2021 is going to be not 2020, and everybody's going to get their health in order, get their house in order, get their inoculations in by late next year, late summer. I'm starting my workshops. I'm going to Vietnam. I'm going to Istanbul. I'm going to Morocco. I'm going to do a couple workshops here in Spain, and I'm going to go to London, right? And these are my favorite places to do workshops. And more than anything, I can't wait to go to Vietnam again. What a magical place. If you have any inquiries, if you have any desire to travel like I do, I have got the bug like I have not had, and I can't wait to get on the road again. You can email my partner, Diana, at anthonyepes.com for any inquiries. And I also do online workshops. The Art of the Image is a 12-hour video course that I essentially put in everything I know about photography into this course. But I do a live version of that, and it's fantastic. So yeah, that's it for me, guys. Thanks for being here today. May 2021 be a rebirth of creativity and good energy for you all. Stay safe and stay positive. And if you guys got any questions, I will take them now.
Anthony, that was really awesome. That was exactly the kind of presentation that I wanted us to see.
Cool,
You
man.
did answer some of the questions. Joyce Scully asked about your Zoom workshops, which you answered. But, you know, I just want to say that I want to thank Rich Fisher, who actually found you. He's not here. He's over at the CACA meeting. You know, when I became president of the Garden Photographic Society, I put out a manifesto saying I wanted to get away from, have you heard the expression, the 3 Fs? The 3 Fs are what we call fur, feathers, and flowers. Those are the things that win competitions around here. It's the 3 Fs. And, you know, when you've seen, you know, your 500th shot of an owl beautifully focused in the center of the frame, you go like, I am totally bored with this kind of photography. You know, it's a beautiful photograph, but there's no artistic risk involved.
Right.
In that shot.
You know, go ahead. Sorry.
And that's what I wanted. I changed up the categories to get nature away from everything else. Okay, so that nature photographers could have their own competition, and people who wanted to do abstract photography or street or architecture or whatever would have a different category, so that, you know, an owl that automatically gets a 25 or a 26, you know, does not compete with a gorgeous architecture shot.
I stopped doing competitions a long time ago. I used to submit lots, and then I realized I don't really, even if I fit the brief, I didn't have any success. I mean, I love my photographs, and I was like, I can't believe that photograph won. Hasn't everybody seen that before? Don't you guys understand that, you know, anyway, exactly what you said, Carlos, exactly what you said. The 3 Fs. And like in the Light Monkeys community, my membership community, and if you're curious about that, I can give you some information. But what I've taught all the members there is, like, we have got, like what I say in my workshop, we're all going to walk the same roads. We're all going to see the same things. You know, if we're in Istanbul, we're all going to see the Hagia Sophia. We're all going to see the Blue Mosque, right? And we're all going to take that picture, right? And that's the one that's going to win the competition. But are you going to feel good about that picture? Are you going to feel good, as good for that picture as the image that only you saw? You know, the one that is unique to you, the one that nobody else could take. Those are the pictures that I'm interested in helping people attain, right? I mean, the Light Monkeys, the first 3 months was like, it was the owls, it was the macro shots of flowers, it was those things, the competition winners, and I don't see any of those anymore. And they have come into their own, you know. I mean, I was blown away in our last class. What was it? It was the abstract. It was the abstract thing, and I was just like, woof. They were so good and so different and so personalized and unique. I was like, I got insecure for a moment, and I said, God, do I have anything else to teach these guys? They've attained they've attained unique individual perspectives through their camera, and it was a beautiful thing. It was a really beautiful thing.
Yeah, you have to, you know, being inspired should be pretty easy. You know, I was at a out of Chicago summer conference with Steve Simon, the street photographer, and we were walking up State Street at night. And one of the members on the trip said, what am I supposed to be shooting? And I thought, oh my God, you're on State Street in the middle of the night in Chicago, and you can't see incredible shots like everywhere. You know, that's like a failure of imagination.
I think that's one. A lot of photographers go into it. I feel sad when photographers obsess about kit and lenses and they don't obsess about, well, obsession is not the perfect word, but creativity and imagination. If you can't manifest it in here, you know, there's very little chance that you're going to actually manifest it through your camera. You've got to imagine the shot first, and then, you know, through your skills of composition, your understanding of light, and your understanding of your camera, or the fluidity of it. I mean, the reason we want camera skills, right, is so we don't become blocked by our camera, right? When we're in that creative flow, right? If you're in the flow and you're like, you know, you're just like, everything's like, wow, you're just like, I'm an observation machine here. I'm just doing imaginative things. And then you go, oh gosh, how do you change that button? What, you know, and then you start thinking about your camera. All of a sudden, boom, the creative flow is gone, and you're in the technical mind. The other half of your brain is taken over, and that's why it's good to know your camera. That's why it's good to know your camera. You know, you got to know your camera better than you know anything, really.
Yep.
I don't want to think about my camera, because the greatest obstacle to creativity can be the camera. I know when I get a new camera that I don't take a good picture for a while. It takes me a couple of weeks to understand all the motions and get the muscle memory for it, so I don't even have to think about it anymore. And yeah.
Interesting. So we had some great comments, great presentation, eye-opening. Thank you. New perspectives for me. I appreciate your perspective, and I'm excited to try some new things. I cannot wait to try something new. Looking forward to express myself. Thank you. Great presentation. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, everybody. And Jill, I do Zoom workshops. Yeah, you can just go to my website and there's more information there. Yeah.
All right. Well, Anthony, thank you so much. I look forward to getting a link to your to the recording, so that people like Rich Fisher, who couldn't see it today, can actually enjoy the fact that he went out and told me about you, and we were able to make this happen.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for showing up and being patient with me and dealing with my little tangents. I hope I was concise enough in getting point across for abstract photography.
Thank you.
Anthony, thank you so very much. And I hate the 3 Fs. I just loved what you.
Be yourself.
And now that I know what the 3 Fs are.
Be yourself. Get in touch with that inner heart, right? And great photography takes great observation, and great observation takes great presence of mind. Yeah, we are bombarded with so much information, and we have to know how to filter that stuff out, and we filter it through our intelligence and our imagination. Yeah.
I have a question for you about your Zoom photography courses.
Yeah.
Do you teach post-processing, or is it mostly just, because I could use a lot of help on the post-processing?
It depends on which class. I mean, if you're interested in the post-processing,
okay,
if you want to access all my classes, then I recommend you join the Light Monkeys. I call it the Light Monkeys.
The Light Monkeys?
Yeah. Just email me, and I'll give you some more information. The Light Monkeys is my membership community, and all my teachings are in there, right? And I'm in there every week helping people.
Hey, could you put your email address up? Because I didn't. Could you put it up one more time?
I'll put it in the chat, yeah?
Email.
Put it in the chat, yeah. And for everybody who's interested in seeing the presentation, I will post it on the homepage of the Garden Photographic Society website. That's gardenphoto.org.
Yeah, if you have any inquiries, where did I put that? Oh, to everyone. Okay, sorry. I'll just put my email there to everyone, and have any inquiries, just drop me a line, as they say, okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much again.
You're welcome, Carlos. I'll get you that link tomorrow. Okay.
All right, awesome.
All right. Good night, everybody, or good day.
Good day.
Good night.
Good night.